the show. So,
You for everyone that showed up to our last space. It was actually
yes,
really fun for Forbidden Door. Chaotic as well, by the way.
absolutely. The double or nothing. The Forbidden Door space went off, and it was actually probably one of our most popular spaces that we've ever done. So, but that shout out to y'all. Shout out to the people them that came through. And speaking of Forbidden Door, AEW Forbidden Door happened this past week. Um, that Sunday, I believe it was, live from the Scotiabank Arena, Scotiabank Center in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It was the second annual crossover show between All Elite Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and obviously it featured some pretty some pretty top tier matches. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega comes to mind. Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada comes to mind. There were so many things that happened during the course of this event, but I kind of wanted to know, first things first, what were some of your takeaways from this event?
Oh, this show was actually really effing good.
Mm,
Um, you mentioned a few of my favorite matches. There's only a few matches I think were like a little forgettable for me. Forgettable to where I can't even remember the whole like match. Maybe like two or three I would have like thrown out.
hmm.
My only really like complaint about it was just how long it was because
Yeah.
I think that show started with the buy-in started at like 7, and then I think it went past 12 with the Okada and Bryan match. And it's crazy too because we actually lost Adam Cole's match because he
He was
wasn't
ill.
cleared. So like that show basically would have been how many hours long if you added Adam Cole. That was a bit much for me, and my energy levels wasn't there for the last match, and I kind of feel bad because I had to just rewatch it afterward.
Mm.
But overall, it was a banger of a pay per view. Um, my personal favorites that I like to mention is definitely MJS match. That one went the fuck off.
Mm.
I love Tony Storm versus Willow. Um, Will Osprey versus Kenny Omega is still my favorite out of the whole entire pay per view. So good that I rewatched it again.
Mm.
Uh, of course, Okada versus Daniel Bryan was a great one, and I think like the 3-on-3 was probably my basically my favorites out of the whole entire pay per view. It was fun. The crowd was definitely really into it. I was definitely into it. It told a whole bunch of different types of stories. It made a lot of people look very good. I was kind of surprised that the New Japan people was able to like keep up with the format of
Mm.
American wrestling, but it
Yeah.
was all really good, all extremely good, and I think everyone came out of it looking good. Like you really couldn't like complain to me about any of the finishes. Um, I want to ask you what are your favorite matches for we deep dive into the best ones of the night and
Whew.
why.
So I think there are a couple of matches that actually stood out to me. The 4-way for the international championship was actually really, really entertaining. I was very, very surprised. It was the Shibata, Orange Cassidy, Zack Saber Jr. Um, those guys were involved and Daniel Garcia. I was really, really happy with that match. Um, I really, really liked it. It was very, very surprising. And it was just very, very good, very, very solid all around, especially since that match featured the belt, your favorite championship belt of all time,
Yo, stop playing about this belt.
this New Japan,
What do we call it? The DMV title?
the DMV title, yo. And this is the reason. And this is the reason why y'all need to be involved in the space because the DMV title is crazy. But I was really, really, really happy about that match. That was actually one of my favorite matches of the night. It was definitely a sleeper. Um, I feel like my matches obviously were the the outright my favorite my match of the night was Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega. It was such good storytelling. It was so suspenseful. There were so many good callbacks to their meeting at Wrestle Kingdom, which I thought was phenomenal. Will Ospreay banging freaking Kenny's head through the board, and then the involvement of Don
Yo, he
Callis. It was
dropped Kenny on his head too,
on
bro.
his dome. I was like, God. I was just like, that is brutal. But it was so many things during that match that was just like, wow, okay, this is great. And it also kind of lets you know that there's more to come. So I was really, really happy about that. Um, but yeah, I don't want to deep dive yet because I don't want to give away too much. But what was your match of the night or the thing that you wanted to
Nah,
deep
let's
dive
stay
into?
right there. Let's
Yeah.
stay right there because I actually really love Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. I need to applaud this man for his heel work because it gave me very classic heel work, like very
Mm,
classic. Like nowadays, when it comes to the heels, they almost come off likable, but Will Ospreay made sure that Canada hated him. Like he took the
Mm-hmm.
flag, he stuck it through his booty cheeks, and he was just rubbing it back and forth, saying basically, "Fuck Kenny, fuck Trish, fuck Jericho, fuck Terrence and Phillip from South Park,
Terrence and Philla.
fuck
Blame
everybody."
Canada. Blame Canada. Oh my God. Don't get me
Yeah,
started on South Park.
that ass. Like he was just like he just said, "Fuck Canada." But to me, the biggest jaw dropper of the entire night was him having the audacity on June 25th to pull out the crippler crossface. I still can't believe he pulled that. I'm not sure if he just happened to see the date and it was just a coincidental, but bro, pulling out Chris Benoit's signature move
Absolutely ruthless.
in Canada on the memorial tribute. The day of his memorial tribute before anyone found out that he was not in fact a hero who was just sadly murdered with his family, but in fact the person leading said murder is insane. Like that's what he
Berserk.
came off like throughout this whole entire match, like a psychotic serial killer murderer. Like bro, he licked Kenny's blood
Right.
like straight in the camera. All hepatitis, like
All
literally.
hepatitis is unhinged.
Like
Not
I
all
was,
hepatitis.
yeah, and like yo, and let me backtrack too. I really love like the video package that they went with
I agree.
for Will Ospreay's opening. Like again, like he came off like as if like it's been something he's just been hovering, like this loss he's just been hovering for like months, and that's how really like a feud should go
Mm-hmm.
realistically. But like just their acting in general just needs to be just like commended, because I don't know if they hate each other in real life, but without knowing shit about shit, I would assume these two motherfuckers hate each other. Like, Will beat his ass for the majority of the match, and like normally by like typical wrestling formula, it's usually like, all right, if the person beats your ass for a long ass time in the beginning, then the other person's gonna get a babyface comeback and then beat your ass fair and square, right? It's usually like a nice story. No, they had Will beat his ass for like 20 minutes.
Oh, for real.
Like slinging him across the ring, left, right, inside, out, back in the ropes, on the apron. He did like a corkscrew moonsault onto the apron and
Over the
shit.
apron, yeah, that was tough.
Yo, like Will hated this man, like hated him. Like Kenny got like a few moves in. I think Kenny's best comeback the whole entire night was when he was furious off of that one winged angel. Like literally, like we thought the match was gonna finish there, but then he just stood up. He's like, "Yo, you have the
Kicked out at
audacity."
one. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Kicked out
he's
at
like, "It's
one.
the audacity."
He was like, "Oh no, 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 no. We're not doing this."
No, no, and Will beat him in, and it was such like a good match where it's just like, even though Kenny got his behind beat the whole entire match, like I think it was still really good storytelling, and it didn't make Kenny look weak. It just made Will Ospreay just look like
Stronger.
insane. Yeah, it made
Right.
him look strong. Yeah, yeah, like it was 50-50 booking, but it was very fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely, like to me, like I know we're only like 6 months into the year, almost 7, but to me that's like has to go down as like match of the year, because that was too good. Do you have any comments on the Kenny and Omega match?
So like you said, like I love the fact that he kind of gave off this impression that he was like harboring the loss at Wrestle Kingdom, and I feel like it wasn't a coincidence that like Kenny took the belt in Japan, which is like Will's turf, and then Will took the belt in Canada, which is Kenny's turf. So I love how they were very, very strategic in how they kind of planned who got the belt, who lost the belt, who won matches, and who lost matches. I felt like just once again, the callbacks were fantastic. I think you kind of touched on everything that I wanted to touch on with that match. My
Okay.
match that I want to go a little bit in depth on briefly, because we only have so much time, is the Bryan Danielson Kazuchika Okada match.
Deserves
Great
his flowers.
match. Great, great match. And I feel like just like the Will Ospreay and Kenny one, you can tell that there is going to be a future in that match, probably at Wrestle Kingdom or something along those lines. I was just really surprised that Kazuchika tapped, that Okada tapped. I was like, I'm not mad at it. I actually really, really like it, but I did not expect that to be the finish. But I think it's gonna give Okada like a little bit more umph when it's time for him to get his lick back. And also Bryan Danielson coming out to the final countdown. Ah, first, for those
I
of
have
you who
a
don't know,
question.
what's
Oh, sorry.
up?
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just saying, based off the tap. Okay, like, do you feel like that displays of how Okada views Daniel? Because I feel like that had to have been like an agreement to
Mm-hmm.
obviously get Okada to tap. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And like Okada's like the baby of New Japan. Like he's like John Cena's New Japan. Yeah, he's like John Cena's New Japan. So it's just like I feel like for him to choose to tap over a pinfall, like how do you think that makes of him viewing Daniel Bryan?
I think it kind of affirms. I think it affirms three things. I think that it the ending of the match kind of was in alignment with the story of the match and the branding of the matches, which was we're going to find out who the best wrestler in the world is. For people who watch wrestling, you can easily make the argument that Bryan Danielson is the best professional wrestler in the world. So I think it was in alignment with that idea. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, I think that it was kind of in alignment with Okada's respect for Danielson, because for him to lose like that in a different promotion, I feel like he had to have a very, very high sense of reverence for him. And number three, I think it's a reflection of how AEW views their relationship, or New Japan views their relationship with AEW. I feel like if you're going to
Um,
send out the face of your company to lose clean via submission, it means you're really dedicated to fostering this relationship and trying to make this something bigger than just a one-time pay-per-view one-off type of situation. So I feel like it's very, very reflective of how they viewed this partnership. And I
mhm.
think it kind of also shows that they want to continue to work together, and that this match is probably going to also have some form of sequel at a later big event for New Japan, preferably Wrestle Kingdom. So
I agree with that. What was your point from earlier that I cut you off on?
I was just going to say, for those of you who weren't aware, Final Countdown, the song that Bryan Danielson walked out to, was his theme song in Ring of Honor. So I thought that that was just a really, really cool touch that they did. Just him coming out to Final Countdown was just very, very cool, very, very nostalgic. Like Tony and this money for this licensing of this theme music is berserk. I don't know how he does it, but this is the reason why certain people are billionaires and I am not.
Who you think did
So
his braids? You think Bree did that?
Bree did not do that. Bree did not do that. Bree they were where were they in Toronto? Brian went to some ends, whatever ends Drake be on to get his hair braided when he had his cornrows. Brian was like, I need to see him where he gets his braids. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get my cornrows done because bro was looking like he was about to get signed to OVO. I'm like, I'm like Danielson, you got a single coming out with Popcorn soon, coming out soon, bro. You got something you got to tell us, bro.
Yeah.
But nah, he definitely those braids came from the hands of a Jamaican woman.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right,
They snatched every little baby hair.
yeah,
That
that
shit
joint
was
he
pulled
was
and
laid.
sucked in. It
That
was
joint was
sucked in.
that joint was just had his scalp in a headlock. Just
It was on fire when he went home.
head was on fire. Bree was like, "I didn't do this hair." Danielson, I know you didn't. I know you didn't. But that kind of wraps up our little Forbidden Door takeaways. It was a great show and a great space. But let us know how you feel about Forbidden Door in the comments below. We're gonna get right along